Today we will be talking about time management, grappling, the usefulness of grappling, and what an NRL coach is looking for in a winger. Welcome to episode 8 of Run It Straight. Today we will be looking, no, I wrote talking. Today we will be talking, calm. We good?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Our first question comes to us from Instagram. It's anonymous. I've been watching your videos and they are really helping give me ideas about what to do, but I don't know how I can fit in the extra training because I'm busy with both school and club training. So if I had to prioritise my time, which training would be best? There's a lot of things that we can say about this. Chris, you want to have a go to start with?
Yes. Well, first thing, you've got to lift weights. So it depends on what your goals are. Let's say if you're lacking size, you've got to go through a hypertrophy phase. If you've already put on the size, you've got to go through a strength phase. But most of all, you've got to make sure you're not getting injured, so you have to stretch as well.
Yeah, so generally we would say, the three most important things to be working on, very generally speaking, is your strength training, your flexibility, mobility stuff, and your conditioning work or cardiovascular. But backing it up a little bit, you said that you don't have time. So where we need to really start is we need to start with you auditing your time and seeing why don't you have time. Okay, so the first thing that we would do is we would have a look at your phone. We do this with the boys in the program all the time,
yes.
And we routinely see it's like 4 to 6 hours. If you've got an iPhone, it's really easy. If mum or dad, you're watching this, grab your son's phone, have a look in it. You go into settings, you go into battery, and you scroll down, and it'll tell you the amount of usage. Usually the phone will say the last 24 hours or the last 10 days, and it'll average out. You want to be looking for the little option that says screen time, because it'll have on-screen time and off-screen time. You're looking for screen time, and that's going to tell you how much you're using that phone. Now, I don't think we've maybe had one kid who was less than 3 hours a day. So number one, don't tell me you don't have time. Same amount of time, everyone's got the same amount of time. Secondly, let's audit your time still. What time do you get home from school? What time do you have school or club training? What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? Oftentimes, kids between 9 and 11 or 9 and 12, usually they're just fighting around. They're on their phones or they're on YouTube or they're watching TV or whatever it is. Go to bed early, get up early. What time do you leave to go to school? If you leave to go to school at 7, brilliant. Get up at 5:30 and you can train for an hour, have a shower, have something to eat, and then off you go to school. We've got some kids in here that they don't get up until like 20 to 8.
Yeah.
There's zero excuse for not getting your training in. Okay, so you're going to have to audit your time. You're going to have to go through and see where are you wasting time, and you're going to have to get some time back there.
Just on that, a lot of the time, boys don't even consider training in the morning.
Yeah.
So it depends how motivated you are. So if you really want to get better, then I would suggest going to bed early, like Joe said, and then waking up early and training. There's no excuse why you can't do that.
No, look, there isn't. This is a really big thing. Is a lot of kids will come to us and say that they want to get better. Well, if you want to get better, you're going to have to do something that you're not currently doing. And that might mean, okay, well, you need to fit in an extra 3 or 4 sessions a week. I don't have time to fit those in. You do have time, you're just not using your time that well. There's guys who come into this program and we have our morning sessions. And whether it's the in-season or the off-season, we've got boys who come in here and they train with us of a morning for 2 hours. They go to school. After school, they come back in and they train another 2 hours, whether it's doing field stuff or sprints or skills. But they're putting at least 4 hours, and we've talked about this before might have even been episode 2, episode 3. They're putting 4 or 5 hours a day into training, and we see someone go from a 1 out of 10 to a 7 out of 10 player in the space of 6 months when you put the work in. So stop looking for excuses like I don't have time. You do have the time. Find a way to use your time more efficiently and more effectively. And if people will say, like a lot of the boys, but I'm sitting on the bus and that's when I use Snapchat or that's when I'm on Instagram. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, is your food logged? Have you been using the Map My Run app to mark the cardio distance? Have you been using that extra time to read about nutritional strategies, to read about flexibility and mobility, to read about strength stuff, or maybe to read as much stuff about NRL if you're a front rower or you're a halfback, to learn how to get better at those plays, or you're just sitting there sending stupid dog face pictures to your mates and chatting about this chick or that chick or something that happened at school. So start using your time better. That's the big thing. Aside from that, what's the best area to work on? Without having any more details, like Chris said, strength training, conditioning, so cardio type work and flexibility, mobility. And then after that, you're going to look at your skill stuff and your speed stuff. But we need more details. So little add in there. For anyone, when you send through your questions, please give us as much detail as you can. I hope that was helpful. Okay, next question is anonymous again from Instagram. What do NRL coaches look for in a winger? Chris.
Height. Number one. If you don't have it, then you can be super fast. But basically, there's a whole range of skill sets that you need as a winger.
Yep.
So first of all, you need to be fast. You need to have good decision making. So you're the last line of defense, as I've mentioned in previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly, you need to catch a ball. You need to be able to...
You got to have good hands.
Yeah.
You got to have good hands, whether it's grubbers that are coming in or it's
high balls.
High balls in the air. Oftentimes the wingers sort of, even though these days the role has evolved a lot more than what it used to be, but oftentimes when you're getting the ball, it's not just a simple hit up like it might be for a middle forward in the middle of the field. If you're getting the ball at the end of the backline movement, quite often you've got a few seconds, you've got to grab that ball and you've got to put it down. Everyone else has put all of this work in throughout the set to get you to a particular position on the field, and the ball might have moved from the hooker to the half to the 5'8" to the fullback, this nice beautiful sweeping movement, and your job is simply to be in the right spot, catch it, run a few metres and put the ball down. So your hands have to be perfect, because those few you might only get 2 opportunities in a game. You drop one of them, then your team may lose. That's number one. So your hands have got to be good, yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Good in the air, good on the ground. You need to be good at taking a long ball. If you're a left winger on the left side, you need to be good at turning to your right, taking that ball, being aware of where your sideline is, where your body is in space. As Chris was saying, being fast is very helpful. There's really kind of 2 types of wingers though that we see these days. If you're looking in the NRL, is you've got sort of the bigger, blockier wingers like Nene McDonald or Tupu at the Roosters, who are just bigger bodies. There's a few others. I mean, Semi Raja was a good example of this. Not that he was slow, but he was a big body. So these days you see a lot of sides will have a bigger body type of winger, or they will have a genuine speedster like Adokar and what's the other Melbourne? Vunivalu.
Yeah, Vunivalu.
Yeah. So they'll have either a really lightning quick winger, or they'll have a big bustling. So one of them's going to beat you with speed and with footwork, and the other one's going to beat you with strength and power and size. So you kind of need to decide, okay, which of those am I more like, and develop those particular qualities. But, putting that aside, good hands is a good place to start. Good starts to your sets. So these days, the job of a winger, if you remember back to when we were playing, there was an old joke, what do you call someone who hangs out with rugby league players? It was a winger, right? Because it was just, you'd stick the rubbish player out on the outside so they could do as little amount of damage as possible. The game's been changing, and that's definitely not the case anymore. If you look at a side when they put a clearing kick in, it's the wingers and then the centre's jobs to get them out of that. If a kick goes back and your fullback picks it up on your goal line, he runs it back, he gets tackled on the 10. First ruck, it's going to be usually a scoot from one of the wingers coming in. The next one, it'll either be another scoot or it'll be a one-off hit-up, but generally it's going to be the other winger or maybe a centre. But it's usually the winger's job, when there's those long clearing kicks and all the forwards in the middle have got to turn around and run back 40 or 50 metres, they've just done a set of defence. They're tired from running all the way back. Very rarely will you see front rowers getting back there and taking hit-ups. You'll usually have fullback number 1, winger number 2, winger number 3, and then maybe the 4th hit-up might be a centre. You might get one forward play before they reef the ball down the other end of the field. So you've got to get good at scooting. You've got to know, okay, which direction am I going to go? I've got to get out and around wide enough to beat the markers.
Run in between players, don't run out.
Yeah.
Get on your hands and knees, play the ball quickly. Because if you get a quick play the ball in one of those first 3 tackles of the set, you'll then find that your team can get on a roll pretty quick.
That's right. Defensively, you need to communicate with the rest of the team especially, but more so with your centre, like we've talked about, with the centre being a really important decision maker in defence. The winger needs to be too. He needs to be talking to his centre, and if the centre jams in, the winger needs to jam in with him. And if you've got an overlap, that communication between the two, the winger's like, are you going to go in? And when he says yes, it's like, okay, so the centre may jam in on it could be the 5'8" or the fullback or a back rower, then the winger needs to jam in on the centre as well, so that they move as one cohesive unit. Because if he just sort of hangs out in no man's land, that centre's going to get the ball, easy draw and pass. If they're going to score, you make them throw a long cutout pass to hit the winger on the outside. There's a chance the pass goes forward, it doesn't come off. It's a harder pass for the winger to take. There's a chance he knocks on. Also, if they both jam up and across, your own defensive, your fullback, is going to have a chance to come across and have a shot at that winger. Whereas if you hang back, he's probably not going to be, because he's going to be watching that inside runner. So if something does happen and you get caught out, he's not going to get across in time. So jam up early, make the decision, commit and take your man out. But communicate, talk. What else? Well, you were saying before, either be quick or be strong.
Yes. Don't
be fat. It's one of the things, you see those two types of wingers. One is the lightning quick Adokar type, and the other one is the Nene McDonald. Who was the other? The Tupu. Who else is there? Oh, Blake Ferguson, big bodies, just sort of muscle their way over. But what you'll notice is none of them, it's not like some of the, you might have a second rower or a lock or a front rower who, their physique is not exactly Adonis-like. They're carrying a little bit of body fat. You don't see that in wingers. So if you are playing on the wing and you're carrying a little bit of body fat, you've got to get rid of it. Number one, it's going to make you quicker, it's going to make you a lot quicker. It's going to mean you don't get caught out.
What goes hand in hand with that is fitness. A lot of people underestimate the fitness levels of wingers because they're constantly running back and forth behind the defensive line.
Yep.
So positional play goes in there as well.
Look, aside from a fullback, they probably cover more metres than anyone else.
That's right.
Speaking of covering more metres, again, what else can you do as a winger? And what are NRL coaches looking for? Support play. Mm-hmm. So if you're on the blind side, even if it's a wide blind side, any time one of your front rowers or your back rowers is taking a hit up, you need to be floating in and around there. The best player that I've ever seen, and this is going back a little bit in the late 90s, early 2000s, was Nathan Blacklock. And I think there was 4 out of 5 years in a row, he topped the try scorers list. And one of those years, he actually scored more tries on the opposite side to the wing that he played than he did on his own side. And that was because he was always floating around where the action was. He wanted to be where the ball is. And I say this as well to players when they say, I don't want to play wing, wing's boring. Well, it's only because you're just standing out there catching a cold. Go and get involved. Anytime you got a second rower or a front rower or a lock, or even if a centre's coming in to take a hit up, go with him. If you hang around, some of them will get their arm free and you'll get the opportunity. He was really good at that, which is why he scored so many times. Anytime anyone made a break, he was there or thereabouts floating. Do that. Don't just stand out on your wing. Okay, be there when you need to be. If there's plays coming back that way, listen to the direction that the half and the hooker and the 5'8" are giving. If they're working to a particular area on the field to then run a blindside player and open, obviously you need to be in position for that. But the rest of the time, don't just stand out there being bored, catching a cold. Get involved, get in there and do some work. Hang around and things will happen. Aside from that, urgency in everything that you do. Don't just lope back slowly to pick up the ball when there's a kick. Sprint. Get used to attacking the ball. Whether it is if it's a grubber, if it's a long kick, get back on side and attack the ball. Everything needs to have urgency. Anything else?
No, that's pretty good.
Okay. Next question. Next question comes to us again, anonymous via Instagram. Would you recommend cross training with a wrestling/grappling coach to improve my tackle technique, especially in the ruck? Short answer, absolutely. What are some reasons why that could be useful?
One of the biggest reasons is, I'm not sure if you watched the game on the weekend where Melbourne steamrolled Parramatta Eels. It's basically because we couldn't keep them on the ground.
See how he said we? Parramatta supporter. 60-point loss. I don't know, this is probably actually going to go up. It's probably going to be a couple of weeks after though when that actually was. So what round was this we just had?
It was the Magic round. They played all the games in Brisbane.
Yeah. So there you go. That gives you an idea when we're filming this.
Yeah.
Continue.
But basically, whenever Parramatta tried to tackle Melbourne Storm, they'd land on their hands and knees and they'd get up and play the ball pretty quick, which meant that Parramatta were on the back foot the whole time. If you get good with your grappling, keep your head nice and tight, wrap the shoulder, twist and drop and land on top of them, you can hold them down for an extra couple seconds, so it allows your team to get back into the line and set. So you can actually move up and have better line speed.
Yeah, so this is one of those things, Melbourne, for as long as it's been around, that kind of manipulation in the ruck, Melbourne have been the best at it. This is why teams who can play really good football week in, week out, and then they come up against Melbourne and the attack always looks kind of stifled. And it literally may only be a third or half of a second longer that they hold them down in the ruck, but that half a second allows their defensive line to get completely set. And then as soon as the ball clears the ruck, they're already moving up, whereas a lot of other teams are still getting back and getting set. So it can often look like Melbourne's a metre or two offside. A lot of the time that is just because they're slowing the play the ball down enough to go back and get set. So it's useful from that point of view. Obviously, learning how to use your body weight and to use leverage to slow things down. What I actually like it for a lot more, though, is there's a lot of kids that are scared defensively, and they're scared about the physical contact and the physicality of the game. You know, they might be good at training, but then when it comes to in a game situation, they sort of back off a little bit, and then they won't go in wholehearted or whole hog, so to speak. If you go and you do mixed martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so obviously not the punching and the kicking side of things, but the wrestling side of things, you get comfortable performing takedowns. That's a lot of what they do, you know, shooting. Is you get comfortable just with the whole range of different body types, lining them up, going, okay, I grab here, I push here, I twist here, this is how you can manipulate someone. You get used to hitting people and you get used to being hit, and the physicality and the contact just becomes second nature. That's where I would suggest to anyone, particularly if you're struggling to have the confidence to tackle some of the big kids, or just tackling in general, and the physicality, you like the skill side, but the physicality is a bit harder. Just go and do it, and you've got to do it over and over and over again. So go and work with a wrestling coach. Work where oftentimes you might be in a situation where there could be 8 or 10 or 12 kids, and there's 3 or 4 coaches, and you just basically for an hour, all you're doing is one-on-one wrestling, grappling, getting people to the ground, or trying to escape. But the whole time you're getting used to the physical contact, and I think that's probably the one of the biggest benefits. That you're going to get out of that. I think that's going to do us for today. That's 3 questions. All right, guys, if you do have any questions, please send them via Instagram or Facebook. Put anonymous if you don't want us to know if you don't want everyone else to know. Well, obviously, we know who you are, but we're not going to tell. Good at keeping secrets. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Share it on Instagram or Facebook. I don't know, you can't share things on YouTube, can you? Get your friends to come like it. We just want to help out as many people as we can. So maybe if you've got a mate who's like, oh yeah, no, these guys, they talked about something that we were talking about the other day, send the link through, and yeah, you ask your questions, we'll try to answer them. Cheers.